working with NMap.
In this video, we're going to take a look at what is NMap, the TCP three-way handshake, ports, switches and options, and finally some demos. What is NMap? NMap is an open source tool that's free that we can use for port scanning. More information and to download the project can be found at nmap.org. There are downloads to a Windows program that also has a GUI called ZenMap. But we're going to be sticking to the command line version for now that's built into our Kali Linux distro. But I would highly recommend visiting the site and looking up the documentations. There are lots of valuable information here on what is scanning and the various switches, because there's a lot for this command. It's very powerful. So NMap is a command line tool that we're going to use to tell whether or not targets are alive, which means they're connected to the network and we can talk to them, what ports they have open, which is another way of saying which services they're running. And this is important because we can find out if those services are vulnerable, and we can use that to penetrate the system or the network. We can also use NMap to sometimes find out what OS or operating system a target is running. Let's talk about the TCP three-way handshake. So TCP uses flags in the packets, and some of these flags are the SYN flag or synchronize, which is used during initial communication, the acknowledge or ACK flag, which is sent as an acknowledgement to the SYN flag, the reset flag, which forces a termination in communication, and a finish flag, which is a graceful end to communication. So when two computers want to talk to each other, they need to set up a communication channel. In TCP, which is Transmission Control Protocol, this is done using sequence numbers. In this way, we can offer reliable connection-based communication. So how does this work? Well, the first computer sends out a packet with the SYN flag set and a sequence number to the receiving computer. The receiving computer sends back a packet with the SYN and the acknowledgement flag set and also its own sequence number. Finally, the sending computer sends back a packet with the acknowledgement set and both sequence numbers are updated. This sets up reliable communication-based communication with the sequence numbers being used. Let's talk about ports. Ports are network socket ports used for connections and go from numbers 1 to 65,535. Typically, services run commonly on used ports. Here is a list of commonly used ports and what services run on them. Once again, this is important because we can look up what port it is and usually find out what service and see if there's a vulnerable service that we can use to attack and gain access to the host or the network. So for example, port 22 is commonly used for secure shell. Port 21 commonly used for FTP service. And this goes all the way up to 1024 for commonly used ports. Let's talk about switches and options. So to use the command nmap, we're going to use the command line version. So we use the command nmap followed by options and or switches followed by the target. Now the target can be an IP address, a host name, it could even be a range of IP addresses. Let's look at some typical switches and options. So nmap-s capital A is an acknowledgement scan. So this is typically used to determine open ports on firewalls. -s capital P is a ping scan used to find live hosts. -s capital S is a SYN scan. So only the SYN flag is set, there is no three-way handshake. So it's a little less noisy of a scan. -sx capital X is a Christmas tree scan. It's known as this because all flags are set and said to be lit up like a Christmas tree. This scan might be allowed by stateless firewalls. -P T is a TCP ping scan, and this is important because it uses TCP instead of ICMP protocol, which your host or target might be blocking. So let's go now and demo some of these commands. Go ahead and start up your virtual machine of Metasploitable 2 and your virtual machine of Kali Linux. Once you have those running, we can take a look at Metasploitable 2 And we can log into Metasploitable 2 using msfadmin as the login and msfadmin as the password. Now if I type ifconfig, I can get my IP address that I'm going to use to scan. Yours might be different from mine. Take note. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get into our Kali Linux system. So boot up your Kali Linux VM if you have not already. And we're going to demo some of these commands. So go ahead and click on your applications. And we're looking for a terminal here. Actually, under information gathering, we have NMap, which opens up a terminal. And you'll see here, it shows the -h or help file. So you can see here, there's a lot of switches and options to use for this command. It's a very powerful command. We can also see the man page like they request there. If I do man nmap, then I get the manual, which shows us also how to use the command nmap, your scan type, followed by your options and your target specification. And they also give examples in this man file. So you'll see here they're using another -t. So the -t stands for a timing template, and -a is to enable OS and version detection. T4 is for faster execution. So the timing templates go from 0 to 5, which you can see here on my leaf pad down here. Timing templates 0 to 5, and the 5 different templates are paranoid, 0, which is the slowest, sneaky, 1, polite, 2. 3 is normal, so if you omit the option -t, it will be the same as -t3. Aggressive is a little bit faster, that's a T4, and insane assumes you have a excellent network connection and you're not worried about losing packets is T5. You'll see we also have this option, -O, to determine the OS, and we have some of our other scans that we talked about before. So the SYN scan, no three-way handshake. This is sped up a little bit. ST scan, which is more reliable but also noisier. That's this guy, the ST. SS is a faster scan because it's half open. And there's our Christmas tree scan, SX. So let's go ahead back to our terminal here. And I'm going to clear it out here. Make it a little bit bigger for you here. And let's go ahead and just run nmap with no options and see what we get with our host, 192.168.111.128. You'll see it says starting nmap. So right now we didn't include a timing template, so this is the same as T3, and we don't have any, we're just using all default options. So it comes back saying that our host is up, and here are all the open ports and what services might be running on those ports. And here's the MAC address of our Metasploitable 2, and you'll see it took 12 seconds. Okay, so let's go ahead and try some of our other scans. So let's do a SYN scan, this one right here. So only the SYN flag set, there's no three-way handshake. So we're going to do nmap S, capital S, 192.168.111.128. And it's done. Okay, and you can see here we have the same information. Our target's up. These are the ports that are open and the services running on those ports perhaps. We can also pipe out these commands to a file by using the greater than symbol. So I could look at these results later on. So let's do a TCP scan, and let's do OS and version detection. 192.168.111.128. Again, I don't have a -t option or a timing template, so we're using the default. The reason why you might want to use a slower timing template is if you slow down the traffic, perhaps there's less of a chance of you getting caught by a security device that's on the network looking for stray or strange traffic. you might want to slow your scan down to avoid being seen or heard. So right now we're scanning with TCP instead of ICMP, which might be blocked by a firewall or a device. And we also have this A option set, which is to determine OS and version type. So we should see that coming back. While that's running, let's go through our list again here of commands and options. So here it is. We're running this one, ST, which is the TCP scan with the three-way handshake. It's the most reliable, but as I said before, it's noisy. In this case, if it's our own system, so we don't really care about that. And we're doing -A, which is also determine OS and version. Alright, so looks like we're done here. And the reason why it took a little longer, as you can see, is it's determining the version of the services that are running. This is very handy for us, because now we can go and look up vulnerabilities for, say, VSFTP version 2.3.4. We can look that up and try to find an exploit to use against this machine. Or OpenSSH version 4.7p1. So this also gave us versions, right, of all these services that are running. Here you go, 5900 commonly used for VNC, the VNC protocol 3.3 version. That's interesting information that could be useful for us. It also shows us that Metasploitable 2 is Linux. That's the OS that's running, and it's kernel version 2.6.x, kernel 2.6. So we could look up vulnerabilities for that as well. So if we wanted to do just straight OS and not version detection, that's when we would use the .o. So let's go ahead and use the .o. Let's make the scan a little faster, and we'll do our SS scan. So if you remember, the .ss is faster because it's half open. Okay, so as you can see, that this was faster than the previous scan. It doesn't show us what versions are open on what services the ports are at, but it does just tell us that it's Linux 2.6 kernel, and that's the OS. So in the interest of saving time, I'm not going to run a timing template that's really slow. Except we could try this one a little faster with the timing template of T6 here, or T5 rather, just to see if it's any faster. So this last one was 14 seconds. So let's see if this is any faster if we run with the timing template of 5, which is insane according to NMap. Okay, and you can see it's 17 seconds. It was faster, and but we got a warning here, right? A retransmission cap hit. So we did get a warning, but you know, we did get the scan back faster. So once again, I encourage you to look up NMap's website, nmap.org, and to read the documentation there. You can also read further documentation on the manual pages, man NMap, right, on different switches and options, because there are a lot, and this is a very useful tool for us to use. So in our next video, we're going to be taking a look at Shodan for scanning.